My name is Atisha Jain. I'm the founder at HyperKey, and we send over 1 million cold emails every month, booking 400 to 600 demos or sales calls for our clients. And many of these clients, like Bradley Bennett from Semantic Links or Stephen Gardner from Husky Tail Digital, they have shared how they close over 60% of the calls that we book for them and turn them into paying customers. Now, if I'm being honest, we could easily book these guys over 3 to 5 times more calls and go around making claims like the dozens of other outbound lead gen agencies talking about booking hundreds of sales calls every month. But we don't do that because the moment we stop following our 3-step qualification process, those calls become completely unqualified. And that becomes double the trouble because now you're not just wasting time talking to a bunch of prospects who cannot afford your service, but your sales team also loses motivation. They're talking to people who make excuses, who tell you your price is too high, who cannot buy, who never end up signing, who keep dragging their feet, wasting time that could be better spent in other areas of the business. So in this video, I'm showing you the exact 3-step process that we use to ensure that every call we book for you is qualified and has the highest possible likelihood of turning into a paying customer or a client. So if you're running outbound campaigns and you're getting plenty of calls, but they're not converting, or you're wasting time sitting on demos with unqualified prospects who cannot afford your service or product, this video will fix it. Let's get right into it. So there are 3 core steps to getting qualified leads from outbound instead of just getting more calls. I'm going to walk you through each one and show you exactly how we implement this for our clients. Step 1, target qualified leads in the first place. Now, the problem most people have is they cast way too wide of a net. They think more leads equals more sales, and they end up building lead lists, which is just an Apollo or a Zoom info filter for an industry, employee count, and they run campaigns to everybody in that industry. The reality is that talking to 50 unqualified leads is way worse than talking to 10 qualified ones. Even emailing unqualified people is going to hurt your campaigns because these unqualified or people who do not find your offer relevant will mark your emails as spam, which will in turn result in your outbound campaigns underperforming. So here's what you need to focus on. First, the right industry. This one's obvious, but people still mess it up. Second, you want to go after decision makers whenever possible. And third, you want to qualify only by company size and only if you're an industry where company size information is publicly available. Now, there's a huge caveat to all of this because oftentimes when you're applying these filters on platforms like LinkedIn Sales Navigator or Apollo, Zoom Info, Lusha, any of these databases, the databases do not have correct information for most of these criteria. And the reason for this is most companies, especially if you're in the SMB space, unless a company is listed, they're not required to post information like this online. So most companies in the SMB space, they simply do not have this information available online, which is why no database is ever going to have accurate information for these things. So that leaves you with 2 options. Option number 1, only contact companies that have accurate information available, which is counterproductive because now you're only reaching out to a really small segment of your market and missing out on all the other businesses out there that could have been qualified, but you simply never pitched to them. Option number 2 is what we do, which is we use multiple data sources to collate as much information as possible about a prospect's company, and then we reach out to them. I'll give you an example. We built a crawler that scrapes 1.7 million websites every day. And when we're trying to build a list for a customer, for a client, we go through these websites, we filter these websites by specific keywords present on the website. If you're looking for e-commerce, we look for things like shipping, free shipping, add to cart, buy now, product lines, lots of pages on an e-commerce website. We look at things like this to identify the right kinds of websites that we can then reach out on your behalf. Then we also collate information from various data sources. So we're looking at things like web traffic, Google Maps presence, the inherent technology being used by the website. We're crawling niche specific directories, forums, LinkedIn page followers, and dozens of other criteria depending on what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And doing all of this allows you to build a better quality list with prospects who would actually find whatever you're selling to be valuable and who are also more likely to be qualified than someone whose LinkedIn just says they're a company with 10 employees, but it's just one person operating with a team of virtual assistants. Let me give you an example of this thing in action. When we helped V8 Media, whose goal was to expand into the UK and the US, they target e-commerce brands in a very specific sub-industry. We used our crawler to find the right kinds of websites. We further classified those websites to only target certain industries that V8 wants to work in. So if you watch Luca's video testimonials, you'll see they specialize in working with restricted brands, cannabis, sexual health, those kinds of categories. So we specifically filtered out those kinds of businesses. Then we look at things like web traffic, social media following, and several proxy metrics to be able to estimate their revenue. And that is when we start reaching out to these businesses to ensure that most of the calls we book are actually qualified. The result? They signed over 10 international clients that were twice as profitable as their local clients in 9 or 10 months of working together. So that is the real secret to building qualified lists. Now, there is a balancing act here, which is, if you end up being too strict on this criteria for list building, your list will end up being super small, which, like I said earlier, is counterproductive because now you're missing out on businesses that could have been qualified. So this brings us to step 2, which is build a broad list, but ask qualification questions on Calendly. Let's say there's not enough information online for you to be able to qualify people by budget, right? So then what you would do is you would just pick the right industry and then let your booking form or let your pre-booking qualification steps do all of the heavy lifting and qualify people. Here's an example. Now, there's a right and a wrong way to do it. The wrong way to qualify is asking people for their exact revenue. And many people lie, or they give you their revenue from 3 years ago, which was their highest ever revenue. You also don't want to be asking 10 different questions like you would on an inbound booking form. Things like, what are you currently doing to solve this problem? How much are you currently spending on ads? Have you worked with other companies in the past? All of those questions are irrelevant at this stage, right? Because when you're generating leads from outbound, all you're trying to do is qualify someone and determine whether or not they have the ability to spend the amount of money that you would need them to spend if they were to work with you. Everything else, understanding their current situation, other solutions they're exploring, all of these other details, these need to be brought out on a discovery call while they're talking to a human being face to face and not on a booking form. So your booking form needs to be low friction. Only ask the important questions, which are budget and urgency. That's it. And here are our exact questions. Question number 1, are you comfortable with a $1,500 investment to work together? This eliminates people who cannot afford your lowest price without asking what's your revenue or what's your budget. Question number 2, what's the timeline to make a decision? If they say just exploring or 6 months or something like that, they're not serious and it might just not be worth taking that call. If they say they want to make a decision immediately or within a few weeks, then that's your cue that this is a good prospect to be engaging with. Now, here's the catch. You will lose some bookings by asking these questions because, a lot of people, they might just look at the questions and they might realize, I cannot spend $1,500. This is not for me. So they'll just bounce back. So if you're running outbound campaigns and you implement something like this, you will see that your conversion from positive replies to bookings drops off. And that's okay because the bookings you get now are going to be more qualified, which means your close rate will improve and your sales team won't burn out. Now that we've accepted that there is going to be a drop-off, there is a third step that you need to incorporate into this process to reduce the drop-off and to convert more of these positive replies into appointments. And that step 3 is having a salesperson call all interested replies. Now, this step is a non-negotiable, and here's why. Many people see qualification questions and they just don't book a call, even if they are actually qualified. Some people aren't sure about the investment. Some people think, I don't know what this is. I don't want to suddenly shell out $1,500 without understanding what this is. And that is why having a human being actually call the prospect and reach out and vet them is a lot more effective than just sending over a booking link and hoping that prospects book. Now, when your salesperson calls the prospect, the goal of the call is simple. You point out that they replied to your emails with interest. You speak to them, understand where they're at, let them know what to expect on the call, ask them if they are comfortable with a $1,500, $2,000, $2,500, $3,000 investment, if they see an ROI. If they say yes, you book them in. If not, you dig deeper to figure out if they really cannot afford the service or if they just don't have the information to be able to decide whether or not they want to take the call. And based on all of this, you manually schedule them in while you're still on the phone with them. As an added extra step, you should also have the salesperson sending text messages and leaving voicemails just in case they cannot get a hold of the prospect the first time they try to call them. You also need to call the prospect at least thrice on the day they respond to your email. Because they responded the same day, it's still fresh in their mind. If you call them thrice and if you get a hold of them on the same day, your chances of booking a call with them are going to skyrocket. And that's exactly what we do at the company. So we have salespeople calling all interested leads, and that is one of the reasons we still manage to book so many calls despite the strict qualification criteria. In fact, this is exactly how we help clients like Bradley Benner and Stephen and the dozens of others on our website achieve the results that they have been able to achieve. Just to recap, those are the 3 steps. Target the right people from the beginning by going where your market actually hangs out and not just relying on databases. Number 2, ask the right qualification questions, budget and urgency, keep it low friction. Number 3, have someone actually call prospects to get them booked in instead of just hoping that prospects will look at your Calendly and book themselves in. Now, what I explained to you just now is just the qualification piece in the entirety of our outbound system that we run for all of our clients. The reality is, if your messaging is off, or if your deliverability is poor, or if you're not following up enough with prospects, you simply won't get enough positive replies to be able to even implement this qualification process. So the fundamental requirement for you to be able to qualify leads is to have enough leads to qualify. And if that's the problem you're struggling with, or if you want us to handle everything for you end to end and just get you 10 to 30 qualified sales calls every month, click the link in the description below and book a call with our team. We'll audit your current situation, see if it's a good fit. And if it is, we'll get you 10 to 30 qualified sales calls every month, completely done for you. I hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.